Opposition.
Peter Schwartz, Media Advisor to the Conservative Party.
And I'd like to just take this opportunity to mention that the Prime Minister was invited to join us here on Q&A with the same amount of notice as the opposition leader, but declined to participate, so we have
Untrustworthy.
someone for We'll save that for later. Okay, so we've got quite a few comments from your Deputy Opposition Leader, Luke Blackwell. First one, a recent release from Luke Blackwell announced that the party is in support of marriage equality, stating, "This is a change in the Progressive Party's traditional policy that meant that they would not support a gay marriage bill if it went before Parliament." First of all, do you agree with Mr Blackwell's very public support of this issue?
I do.
You do?
I do completely.
Can I ask then why it wasn't you that was making these comments?
Because he is far more passionate about that issue than I am. Although I do believe I believe that fairness and equality are core principles by which the party should live by and stands for.
Okay, what I'd like to ask is what I think a lot of people want to know, why the change?
The recent election has made the Progressive Party realise that it has sort of lost its way in being a truly progressive organisation, a truly progressive institution in our country. We have forgotten the key core values that the Progressive Party was supposed to have stood for, and it did stand for in the past, and we must realise that as the world is moving on, and we need to move on with them.
So if you say that the IPP has lost their way before, can the people of Incognita trust you to not lose your way again?
They can absolutely trust us. We will make sure that our support for gay marriage will never waver.
Okay, so the party has even gone further, Mr Blackwell saying, "I'd like to see a vote on the issue in Parliament before the end of the year." Do you think this is realistic? That's open to both of you.
We will propose a bill on same-sex marriage. The point of differentiation between us and the Progressives is that the Progressives are now forcing all of their members to vote in favour of gay marriage. In other words, if they don't vote in favour of gay marriage, they're kicked out of the party. The Conservative Party does not believe that's the best route to take. We think members should be free to vote on it any way they see fit. It's a very personal issue, and therefore members of our party who do feel strongly in favour of the issue will be able to propose bills.
And Mr West? Mr West, how do you propose that this will happen by the end of the year?
Hopefully the bill will be introduced later this year, but if it doesn't, it will happen eventually. You know it will.
Okay, so this quote comes from the IPP from their press conference earlier today. "We will vote for marriage equality only." You mentioned that the government has used the term slippery slope. Can you expand on this for us, please?
Oh, we believe that the current government is not truly representative of the population. They don't care about the issue as much as we do. We doubt that they have true support for the population.
And Conservative Party, what's your response to the slippery slope?
It's actually very interesting to hear that they're saying that we're not representative of the population. We're allowing our members to vote the way that they see fit, so they can vote based on their districts. So if there's members who are in more conservative districts, they can vote against it or for it as they see fit. What that party is doing is forcing all of their members to vote in favour of same-sex marriage. So even if they're in a more conservative area, it doesn't matter. So
we came to the agreement that that support for gay marriage is the best thing for the future of our country.
So the Conservative Party doesn't believe that marriage equality is a slippery slope that will lead to bestiality?
No, that's not a Conservative Party value across the board. Individual members may have that view, but that is definitely not.
Individual members, such as name names?
No, I'm not willing to name names.
But they do exist in your party, don't they?
I've just mentioned that they exist. I'm not going to name names for you. You can name names if you
Mr
want.
Blackwell also had some very pointed words saying, just because the Prime Minister thinks he is living in 1950 does not mean that the rest of the nation, and indeed the rest of his party, are.
It's interesting to hear that, because that's very indicative of the left-wing media. We hear words like old, conservative, and old-fashioned, and living in the 1950s. They're trying to reiterate the same message to create this two-dimensional image of the Conservative Party. As
Well, not the Conservative Party, though, aren't you? The clue is in your title, Conservative Party.
Well, no, we can have conservative values, but it doesn't mean we have to live in the 1950s. There's a difference between believing in conservative values like, say, freedom of speech, freedom of association, and living in the 1950s. We have different members who have different beliefs and different views, and they're free to vote any way they choose. The progressives are
And to the IPP now, with such harsh words, how do you plan on winning over the swinging or Conservative vote?
We're not after the Conservative vote.
They are after more votes. That's why they're doing this. That's what this decision is.
We're
It's
doing
about
this
getting
because
more
these are core
votes.
values.
It's about getting more votes from the last election. You've lost an election, you're desperate, and that's what this is about.
We've reevaluated our current position.
That's what the Progressive Party likes to say when they're getting votes.
Now we have another quote from Mr. Blackwell. We don't want to fall too far behind the rest of the world. New Zealand have legalised gay marriage and they have a toothbrush fence. Comments on that?
It's true, we can't let our country fall behind. The Conservative government will ensure that we will fall behind the rest of the world.
Do you think it's right to compare our nation to other countries, though? I'll ask you.
Do we have a right to compare?
Do you think it's right? Do you think that's what we should be doing to...
Well, New Zealand has voted the way that they saw fit, and far be it from us to tell them how to run their country. We'll vote the way we see fit.
Okay.
It's really no more complex than that.
We'll now turn to some questions that have been asked of the IBC and our panellists from our social media pages. This one's from Facebook. Do you believe your views represent those of the majority of Incognitans? That's to both of you.
As I said before, we believe that we do represent Incognitans. We have members who will vote for same-sex marriage as well as members who will vote against it, much like the public. Whereas all of their members are forced to vote in favour of it, so that's not...
Because we believe it will guarantee a better future for all.
Well, there's individuals in Incognita who do not agree with that view, and we're trying to represent the public as opposed to shape the public view.
To the Conservatives now. This was posed in the press conference earlier. I don't think we reached a solid answer. So would you allow a conscious
Every
vote?
vote in the Conservative Party technically is a conscious vote. We are opening this to be a conscious vote. Felisa members can vote any way that they see fit. Unlike the Progressive Party, has a formal pledge system in place where at any point, unless it's specifically mentioned otherwise, if you vote against the party, you're kicked out.
Okay. Now, IPP mentioned that you're not after the Conservative vote. We did have this question, will your campaign be strong enough to alter the perceptions of dedicated Conservative members and swinging voters, as I mentioned, and you're standing firm that you're not after their vote? Because the recent election would probably show that...
If they're staunch Conservative, they're unlikely to vote for us anyway, regardless.
What about the swinging voters then?
No, we're hoping we can win them over.
Okay. We turn now to our studio audience. If anyone has any questions from our panellists, feel free to ask them now while they're captive. Nobody? No questions? Any swinging voters or Conservative voters have any comments about them perhaps not being heard by the IPC? No? Okay. Thank you very much for your time.